All right, guys. This is going to be kind of our first video, our first new video for this year. I'm posting a lot of videos that cover different content from last year, and as we go through the course, I might make new videos, or I just might post my old videos from last year that correspond to the content that we're going through. So right now, we're starting with Visible Learning Objective 1-1, which is all about nomenclature, and so naming and formula writing. So ionic compounds, covalent compounds, acids, and then organic compounds. So it's a lot of review from Chemistry 1. So you seniors, it's been 2 years removed from that. Juniors, about a summer removed from that. So we're going to go through it very quickly in one class period, and then we're kind of moving on from there. So there's probably a lot of extra review you need to do on your own. And so I posted videos from honors chemistry from last year that goes over all the basic stuff. This video, I'm going to show you how to do. I'm going to actually do one of the Schoology assessments for you. So if you watch this video, you can just do the Schoology assessment and follow along. And so we have Schoology assessment for Visible Learning Objective 1-1, and we have part 1, and we have part 2. So on this video, I'm going to do part 1 for you. So you'll be able to do that yourself. And then hopefully, from your review, you'll be able to do part 2, no problem. All right. So the first thing I would definitely do is go to your Visible Learning document. So hold on, let me get to there. And scroll all the way down. So you got your Visible Learning document. We're talking about 1-1 here, so naming all this stuff, right? But if you scroll all the way to Appendix C, gotta keep going. That's Appendix A. Appendix A has some stuff there for you for different compounds, but let's go this way. Sorry, I'm just adjusting this. I'll have to resave it. Anyway, Appendix C. It's kind of our nomenclature rules, so polyatomic ions to know, different rules. This is kind of called the nomenclature cheat sheet. So you have your covalent compounds, which are also called molecular compounds. So covalent and molecular are the same thing. Then you have your acid naming rules, and then you have your organic rules. And organic chemistry is a monster. So we're not getting into all the organic chemistry nomenclature. That's not part of the AP curriculum. We're just going to be talking about how to name and maybe write the formulas for very simple straight chain, what we call hydrocarbons, compounds that contain only carbon and hydrogen. So this information you got when we did Chemistry 1, but you probably forgot it. And hopefully this video will be a refresher. So, you might want to review that. You might want to review the other videos I posted in the videos folder for Visible Learning Objective 1-1. And I'll show you how to get there. So hold on, let me get there. Let me close out of this. All right. So I'm just going to do first period, but it's going to look the same for seventh period. But if you go to first period, if you go to Unit 1, VLO 1-1, you'll see you have these 2 Schoology assessments that you got to work on. Here is 1-1 materials. So you got all this. These handouts will be given to you on the second day of school, I think, the second time we have class. But there's, answer keys for the practice worksheets. And then these are the videos from honors chemistry last year that you might want to rewatch again if you didn't watch them in the first place, or just to get familiar with. And these are some of the same videos that I posted in the summer Schoology group. So maybe you watched them over the summer, but you probably didn't. That's not a big deal. But you might want to watch those, you might not, or just watch me go through this assessment. So again, I'm just going to go through 1-1 Schoology Assessment Part 1. I'm just going to go through it, explain my answers, And hopefully that's going to jog some memories for you. Okay. You might want a periodic table out. You might want to have that appendix C out if you can print that out, or just have it by to look at. All right. So let's go ahead and do this one. Okay. And then if you understand everything I'm doing here, then you should have no problem doing the part 2 assessment. All right. So it says, write the name of the cation only. So remember, ionic compounds, metal, non-metal, basically. The cation is the positive ion, and that's always the first one in here. So magnesium is the cation, and chlorine, but when we name it, it would be chloride, is the second ion. So the name of the whole compound would be magnesium chloride, and that's it. But and remember, we don't use any prefixes for like mono, di, tri. That's only for covalent compounds. We don't use those prefixes for ionic compounds. But it's asking you to name the cation only, so this would just be magnesium. Now, when you're naming cations, it's important to know some cations you need a Roman numeral in the charge. Remember your mom ions. So if you go back to your visible learning, if you go to Appendix A, right? Appendix A has like the common mom ions and how to name them with the Roman numeral and stuff like that. But magnesium is not one of those. So the name of this would just be magnesium. So if you wrote magnesium ion, you'd be okay, but magnesium is good. Cation only again. Okay, so this compound would be lead 4 sulfate. But again, we only need the name of the cation, and the cation would be lead 4. Now, how do we get the Roman numeral? The Roman numeral is the charge of this ion. And sulfate, you have to know, is a 2- ion, and you have 2 of them. So because you have 2 of them, right, the overall charge, the negative charge, is -4. So the overall positive charge has to be +4. And since you only have 1 lead there, it's lead +4. So you would say lead 4. Now, when you do this, make sure you don't use lowercase l for your I. Make sure you use I. And you don't have to put the Roman numeral in parentheses. So just 1 space in between lead and 4. So like sometimes your Schoology assessments might mark something wrong because you just formatted it incorrectly. So just kind of a lesson to learn throughout the year, or for the whole year, is if you got something marked wrong on a Schoology assessment, but you think it's right, double check with me, because it just might be a formatting error. When it's a math problem or something like that, it might just be a significant figure error or something like that. So don't sweat. So this would be lead 4. Let's keep going. Okay, cation only again. This one would be iron 2 nitride would be the name of the entire compound. But again, we only want the cation, so it would be iron 2. And the reason why we know it's iron 2 is because nitride, N by itself is 3-, but you have 2 of them, so that's a total of 6-. So that means the iron has to have a total of 6+, but you have 3 of them. So that means each iron is 2, +2, so iron 2. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger while I'm explaining this stuff. Yeah, that'll work. All right, right there. Okay, so let's keep on rolling. All right, classify the following element as a metal or and that should say or non-metal, the identity, and then identify its state of matter at standard conditions. So mercury is a metal, but we remember it is a liquid. It's the one liquid metal that we have at standard conditions. Okay. Write the name of the cation only, again, just the cation of this ionic compound. So the full name of this ionic compound would be ammonium sulfate, but again, just the cation. Remember, NH4 is ammonium. All right. Rank the following elements from lowest number of valence electrons to highest number. Remember, all you have to do is look at your periodic table, and whatever column it's in, that's how many valence electrons it is, except for helium. Remember, helium is one of your noble gases, but it only has 2 valence electrons. So that's kind of a tricky one right there. So sodium is in the first group. So it has 1 valence electron. Let's see. Silicon is in group 4 with carbon, so that has 4. Sulfur is in group 6 with oxygen, so that has 6. Arsenic's in group 5A with nitrogen, so that has 5. And then remember, helium has 2. So sodium has 1, helium has 2, so that's the next lowest. Then silicon, and then we got to put sulfur. Sulfur has 6, and arsenic has 5. All right. Keep on going. Classify the following element as a metal or non-metal. I can't believe I've had this Schoology assessment for 3 years. They still haven't fixed that typo. And I probably won't fix it. So, sorry. Then identify its state of matter and conditions. So phosphorus. Phosphorus is a non-metal. And let's see. Does anyone know? It is actually a solid. Now remember, the periodic table, if you had some of the periodic tables, like the periodic table in our classroom has them color-coded. The black ones are solid, the red ones are gases, and the blue ones are liquids. So you'll be able to look there. We'll review this, but if you just Google periodic table states of matter, it'll pop up, and phosphorus is one of the solids. Most of the elements are solid at room temperature. There's 2 liquids, and then I don't know how many gases, but not many. All right, so I'm off the top of my head, the number. All right, let's keep on rolling. All right, identify the block. Remember the periodic table, S block, P block, D block, F block. Arsenic's in the P block, so I'll move that there. Silver is in the D block. It's one of the transition metals. Noble gas, but not helium. Helium's in the S block, and the rest of the noble gases are in the P block. So P block for the noble gases, not helium. S block for helium. Alkali metals, S block. That's the first group. And neptunium is one of our F blocks. What is neptunium? It is an actinide. It's in the actinide series, so the very bottom row of the periodic table. All right, here we go. Let's keep on rolling. All right, so select all the elements listed below which are classified as diatomic. So remember, we got 7 diatomics. Go to 7, make a 7. In helium, or sorry, not helium, hydrogen. And then Brinkelhoff, Heck know how, whatever you want to remember. But it's hydrogen, chlorine, bromine, iodine, fluorine. And then the other 2, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The other 2 that are not on this list that are diatomic are, remember, oxygen and nitrogen. All right, so, but those are the other 5 there. Okay, so technically HBr could be just classified as a covalent compound because it's 2 nonmetals. Hydrogen's a nonmetal, bromine's a nonmetal. But it's a special one, and I want you, especially in this class, to understand that if you see H in front, you want to think acid, okay? The other thing is, right, if it was HBr aqueous, AQ, then it would be an acid, and you would name it as an acid. If it was HBr gas, then you would just call it hydrogen bromide, okay? But I want you to name it like an acid. So H in front is an acid. And then the name would be hydrobromic acid. Okay, now how did I know that? Well, if you need to, reference your Appendix C and look at the acid naming rules. And so Br is bromide. So what do? If your anion that the H is attached to ends in "ide," you add the prefix hydro and the suffix "ic." So hydrobromic. So bromide changes to hydrobromic, and then you add the word acid. Okay. All right. So carbon and hydrogen, it could have other things, but this is a hydrocarbon, and we want to recognize this as organic. Okay, yeah, you could say it's covalent because it's non-metals, but it's a special type of covalent, organic, so that's what I want you to say, organic. Okay. Now, it has 6 carbons. Our organic prefix for 6 carbons is hex. And then now what we have to do is reference our cheat sheet here. And if it's how many carbons times 2 plus 2 for hydrogen, then it's going to end in ane. So I would say hexane. But if it's just times 2 the amount of hydrogens of carbons you have, then it would be hexene. But if it's times 2 minus 2 for the hydrogens, it's hexyne. So if we go here, 6 times 2 is 12, minus 2 is 10. So this is the 6, this is the times 2 minus 2 category. So this would be hexyne. And then if we go here, it says classified as a metal or nonmetal. All right, so bromine is a nonmetal. And bromine is one of our special ones. There's only 2 elements on the periodic table that are liquids at standard conditions, and one of them is mercury, and the other one is bromine. Bromine's diatomic, but also a liquid at standard conditions. All right, we'll keep going. Identify the compound as ionic, covalent, organic, acid or organic. Iron, as soon as you see a metal, you know it has to be ionic. Okay. And then it would be iron 2 carbonate. All right, so how do we get the carbonate? Well, we got to memorize, or, maybe not memorize, but be very familiar with your polyatomics. So we go up to our list. Carbonate, okay. We got to know that iron is a mom ion. What does that mean? It means it needs a Roman numeral. So all the metals in the D block, all the transition metals need a Roman numeral. Iron's in the D block and it needs a Roman numeral. So that's why I need to know I have to have a Roman numeral in the name, right? That's I have to know that. Okay, so the hard thing is figuring out what's the correct Roman numeral. So what you have to do is say, okay, well, in this formula I have 1 carbonate. Remember, if you had more than 1 carbonate, the carbonate would have to be in parentheses, and then there would be a subscript outside of the parentheses telling me how many you had. So CO3 is 1 carbonate ion, so you have 1 of them. Okay, if you didn't have the charge memorized, you'd go to your reference chart here and say, okay, 1 carbonate is minus 2. And so ionic compounds, they have to be electrically neutral. So if the negative side of the compound is minus 2, the positive side of the compound has to be plus 2 total. And since you only have 1 iron in this formula, the subscript is 1, then that means the iron has to be plus 2. So that's why it's iron 2. So again, when you're doing this, make sure you use I's for your Roman numeral and not lowercase l's. A lot of kids get this marked wrong Schoology because they use lowercase l's. Now, if that's you, you don't have to go back and redo it. You can just let me know and I'll adjust it. But, sometimes Schoology messes up the grading based on, just, a typo or a grammatical error or something like that. So, okay, so anyway, iron 2 carbonate, all right? So that is part 1. Hopefully you found that helpful. And now with that in your pocket, go ahead and, try part 2 and get it done, get it done ahead of time. We're starting, we're starting on the first day. We're going to be starting doing stuff on the first day. Part 1 is due Friday and part 2 is due the following Tuesday. And in that time, we're also going to be starting 1-2 and 1-3 and 1-4, and we're rolling. So hopefully you enjoyed your summer, but it is time to get back into things. And we have a hard deadline. Our hard deadline is May 1st. That's when your AP exam is. And so we have until then. So we have no time to waste. All right. So anyway, I'm glad I saw some of you at the, open house. Yeah, that's what they called it today. But I look forward to see all of you on Monday. And I hope, I'm really looking forward to this year. I think it's going to be awesome. All right. So get them done. All right. Bye.